The taiga is mighty, dense, generous, and punishing, but most often, of course, punishing, especially those who need its benevolence. But now, precisely on this day and night, here on the heights, it was beautiful. The crimson sunset, the elevation up here, dusk still lingering. A small campfire, a company of 3, no wind. Somewhere an owl hooted. Somewhere a branch snapped. Nightlife was awakening, and daytime life was hiding to survive until dawn. There was something inspiring in all this, something stirring. Here, elevations dusk, and down below, in the lowlands, it was already night. In such beautiful weather, you only want one thing, to sit properly on a log, pour something clear, and gaze now at the fire, now at the darkening forest. Think about yourself, remember the past, and muse about pleasant things. But unfortunately, in a company of 3, not everything is so rosy. Greg, do you have water? Me, John Peterson. Give it here and check. You had spices too, I think. And by the way, what did I tell you about the Petersons? I'm no Peterson to you, just John, got it? I may be an old geezer who's seen a president alive, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to put up with it. I love life, so, John, or I'll give you half a bucket with a pot. All right, John, as you say, you're the best, Greg. Tell me, what are we cooking? We don't have much choice, but there is some. Buckwheat and barley. What will you have? Barley, probably. I'm with you. And you, probably. You too. Barley. Good choice. You shouldn't break away from the team. Speaking of which, you know what my mother used to say. Son, live your life, but live it as an average person. Everyone goes to the store. So you go too? Everyone goes there. So you go with everyone. You know, at that time, it was correct. Times have changed. It's gotten worse. Much worse. Back in my day, a word was like an axe. You could chop wood or cut off a head. They'd start a rotten argument over nothing. And as for deeds, I won't even mention it. Now, what does a word mean? Nothing. And there are too many words. Before, you wouldn't believe it. To hear a joke, you had to find a person. And even then, he had to tell it to you. And you didn't just listen and go hee hee ha ha. You memorized it so you could retell it yourself. But now, Dave's son brought a laptop with the internet. And now, all the information is there for you about anything you want. I would have given a lot in my time to sit like that for an hour. Am I right? I don't agree, answered Greg. And you, probably, would support me, right? After all, it's us who have to cook. And Greg, he's still young, by the way. Young. Organize some garlic for us. What kind of porridge is it without garlic? What kind of porridge is it without butter? Well, we have meat, so no butter. The pot hanging over the fire was filled with barley, lard, plenty of dried garlic, parsley, dill, bay leaf, so the barley wouldn't get too wild. Soon it would boil, and we'd flavor it with stew. Today, Greg, believe it or not, I have my own homemade stew, practically a strategic reserve. I remember buying a whole crate in the city for crazy money. Well, you'll tell us about that another 200 times. And I will. You better tell us. Why are you so gloomy? We're like this. But what is there to be happy about? The animals in the forest have turned bad, disappeared, gone. There's a heat, too, and this terrible mosquito, the gnat. Well, we've been wandering through the taiga for 4 days, and Greg looked over his shoulder where a branch cracked, and home is as far as the moon on all fours. 2 days, and that's if you almost run. You'll get there by evening, and we'll get there. What then? No meat, nothing valuable, seen or learned, and I have orders for pelts, and I need a place for myself. Nothing. You can get by on fish. Thank God there's plenty. Yeah, I'll get by. But what will I tell the customer? Here's a salmon. Sew your woman a coat. Both laughed. All right, Greg, not everything at once. This is the taiga, said the old man, pulling a branch from the fire and lighting up. Today you're full. Tomorrow you're hungry. And again, it wasn't just for nothing that we came. I personally found something valuable for myself, so let's not talk about it. In such weather, in such places, all sorts of legends and stories come to mind. And places. Who would have thought that the village of Apple Creek is not just a horror story, but quite a real place? Do you think it's the one? It's 100%. I've heard a very bad story about it, and when we stumbled upon it, I thought it would be better not to have found it. But now I know for sure. Don't set foot there. What happened there? Why did it disappear? I'll tell you now. Give me more bay leaf, or the barley will go wild. Here, take it. What? Do you eat them? Such a skinny leaf. Just one stick. Well, what they sell in the store. That's what I serve. Strange, bay leaves have become poor in our time. Do you have any, by any chance? No. So nothing will manage, and it's enough, said John, stirring the aromatic stew. Apple Creek in my time was also called Apple Grove, but when you walk through the taiga, especially at night, you don't really want to say such words, so Apple Creek, because depending on the trade, the name was different in my time. But even in my time, there were no living people from there, or at least those who'd seen the village alive, and all because of the place and, strangely, legends. The place was rich in everything, but especially berries and all sorts of wild life, as if they were smeared with honey. Even earlier, expeditions stopped there, because they considered that piece of land almost the most fruitful in terms of berries and meat. But that was before certain events. When I was young, they told me, "Don't go to Apple Creek. Only spirits live there. There are no people there. Don't go. Don't take anything from there," and so on. That's what they told everyone. And over time, Apple Creek turned into an apple, and the horror story in common speech into a berry, because they were practically synonyms. And what's more, they scared kids, saying how a blind old woman from Apple Creek would come for you and take you with her. And at that time, we really had one terrifying old woman, like a nightmare, always carrying a sack on her back. When she went out, everyone rushed home, though she seemed like a kind woman. But who knows, maybe she really would stuff you in her sack. Well, what didn't people believe in back then? But never mind. In the 60s and 70s, it happened, and berries, and someone studied something, and pelts, and in short, who only didn't go there. And what didn't they do? There were crowds of people. Helicopters went like buses, once or twice a day for sure. But that's not important. They were doing something. And there were lots of people. Old-timers said the places were wild, and it would be better if there were fewer people. Or better yet, to stop the trade. Oh, who listens? I don't know what happened to them, but the legend is this. They needed bears, or rather bear pelts and their fat, and there were plenty of bears there. I told you the places were fruitful once, and so they started killing those bears for nothing, because, wherever you shoot, without looking, you'll drop a bear. So why protect them? And there were lots of problems from them. Just shooting them, no one would understand. And you'd get hit on the head because, what are you? Not all there. And here, it's like revenge for all the ruined nerves, and the security level seems to be higher. It didn't last long, about a month, and then people became victims. The spirits got angry at them for such brazen extermination. They weren't thrilled with them anyway. And then strange things started happening in the village. First, someone started stealing dogs, then killed livestock, the little that was left, and then got to people. Someone would come at night and call for you. At first they thought it was ghouls, but no. And why would there be ghouls? There's no cemetery nearby. And they called in different ways. Sometimes a friend, sometimes a relative who wasn't even there, sometimes someone else. And how they called, they could talk calmly under the window or start yelling like, "Get up, get ready, fire." Just step over the threshold, step into the darkness, and you're done. Those who stepped a week or two later would come and beg their families to come out to them. Imagine, night, hundreds of kilometers around, no one, and your father, who disappeared a week ago, is calling you. How's that? Exactly. They started thinking in the village what to do about it, and that it was a miracle was clear from the tracks. The callers had two kinds of tracks, human and bear. At first they thought it was just a coincidence, but no, it was exactly that. A person turned into a bear and vice versa. And also fur, silver tufts of fur. There was none before. And now they described it as real silver, they say. It even hurts your eyes from the shine, like it plays in the sun. And when they found that fur, something became clear. Before that, literally, in the first days, they shot a she-bear. But she had some kind of silver patch. The hunters thought what to do with the pelt, but decided it was diseased and just poured gasoline on it and burned it to hell, so as not to bring any disease to the village. What did this knowledge give? Absolutely nothing concrete, but it was clear that something was wrong with that she-bear, and killing her was a very big mistake. One night, a hunter who was searching for that shapeshifter had his brother, who had stayed in New York and obviously had no business in the taiga, come to his window and say, "Open up, brother. It's me, Johnny. What's up?" And really, the voice was similar, and he seemed to be looking through the window, standing in the half-light. And it really seemed like him. The hunter was shaken. He wanted to believe it was his own flesh and blood, but no. And the visitor was standing slyly, not in the light, but in the shadows, so cleverly that you couldn't say he was hiding, but you couldn't see him properly either. The hunter first grabbed his gun, but then realized that once already they'd grabbed. And every night, at least one person disappeared from the village, and all the livestock was already killed. And he decided, unexpectedly, for himself, to say, "You're not my brother, but I'll accept you as a brother. Come in," he said, getting a little crazy himself, and accepted the invitation, turned on the light, made tea, got some sweets, met the stranger with silver hair as a friend. Only, besides the hair, he noticed that the guest's eyes were unnatural somehow, and they had the following conversation. The visitor said that he was one of the spirits of nature, and he was simply furious that they had killed his wife, that very she-bear. But since he was a spirit of nature, and people were too slow, he could forgive them all if they gave him the pelt and the head, he could resurrect her. He also told that all the missing people he spoke to, he asked them this question, and all just said they didn't know and they weren't hunters. The hunter first thought of lying, tricking, but thought that it was probably very stupid to deceive the one who was essentially the master here, and told the truth that they killed, destroyed the pelt and the head, and that's it. The guest came and didn't even say a word while the hunter was telling all this. And when he finished, he answered, "You've disappointed me, and that's putting it mildly. But you're the only one who lives with a real heart. Although I see that you're afraid of me, you try to talk to me as a friend, not an enemy. Therefore, you're the only one who will now walk through the taiga, and nothing will ever happen to you. The beast won't touch you, the swamp won't take you, and the river doesn't need you. This is my gift to you." And then he got up and left. What happened in that village is unclear that night. But really, only that hunter survived. All the others disappeared. And the hunter himself either went crazy or became a hermit and wandered around the settlements, and for a bowl of mushroom soup and a piece of bread, he told this story. Actually, everyone knows this legend from him. They also say that the spirits now live in that village, and if you pick the right moment and know the day the spirit's wife was killed, you can meet him there in person. But there's a nuance. The village stands as it did then. Nothing has moved. And the place itself is like frozen. Everything as it was. Even the boards don't rot. And now the ghosts of those who disappeared at that time live there and kill everyone who enters. Well, how do you like this story about Apple Creek? Well, you old fart, you really told a campfire tale tonight. He's like that, and what do you say? I'm sure you'd support me, too. All right, we need to put in the stew. Let it simmer a bit so the aroma spreads. John, I'm hungry, can't help it, and at night it tastes better. I'd like to sleep, but that's not an option. Yeah, Greg, sleeping here is something you wouldn't wish on your enemy. All right, we're mean people. Let's wish. Let it boil nicely. What kind of enemies are these that you need to pity, but we really won't sleep? The further we get from that place, and from this ravine, the easier it will be. I think by tomorrow afternoon we can sleep, but we still have to hold out until tomorrow afternoon. And with lack of sleep, my head is leaking worse than my neighbor's moonshine. It'll be hard, but we don't have much choice. Listen, John, I know something too. And by the way, about sleeping. In short, it's not my story, but my great-grandfather's. My father told it to me. Let's not get hung up on names and places because I'll get it wrong or forget something or say the wrong thing. So closer to the point. Great-grandfather often rode through the forest to the village. In the center of that village, there was something like a fair, and they sold and bought all sorts of things. It started at 9 in the morning, reached its height around 3 in the afternoon, but some desperate ones stayed until 7 in the evening. Great-grandfather went to sell honey. He had an apiary, and honey was a valuable commodity, especially at that time. Honey, propolis, wax, everything was bought, everything was sold. But to great-grandfather's joy, there were only a couple of beekeepers. Everyone knew each other and didn't haggle over prices. Mostly hunters, fishermen, lumberjacks, gold prospectors, and all that. Great-grandfather arrived at 2 in the afternoon, as they used to say, straight from the cart. He was trading, People came up, bought, argued, lied about prices. A crowd gathered from all around. So many people. Everyone came. Some traded honey for meat, some for fish, and some, scary to say, for money. In short, the trade went smoothly and as expected, and great-grandfather had a lot of honey and other things this time, and the fair, was it just about selling? Yes, but not only. You could meet people, hear the news, talk face to face or get something. The main thing was to know the right people and who traded what. And as you know, everything will be. So, while this and that, it was already evening. Great-grandfather wanted to go to a woman's place for a drink. She was supposed to meet him at the fair, but for some reason she didn't. He decided not to be upset and dropped by himself. That's life. You have to understand. Today you have opportunities. Tomorrow you may not. Well, around 6 in the evening he drove up to her house, and the neighbors told him that she had gone to relatives for a couple of days. Someone was sick or something like that. And they said, "Don't even think about going home. Stay in the village. Don't go back." Why? The night is bad today. There's something devilish happening from your road. You'll get lost in a second. So stay in the bathhouse. We'll put you up in the hallway, give you tea and everything, and even a drink if you want. Well, great-grandfather stood there, looked at it all, and thought, well, they don't seem bad, but they look kind of envious somehow. The horse was also stamping its hoof. Didn't like that yard. Great-grandfather wasn't afraid they'd rob him or anything. No, of course not. In those parts, people were honest and decent. The indecent ones simply didn't survive and were punished very quickly. But something truthful was off. The yard was too fancy. The owners, people untouched by life, like most of them there, happy, smiling, blooming and smelling, and the whole yard in flowers. It seemed good, but also not. He decided no, he wouldn't stay with them, and he didn't want to go to others. He knew everyone, of course, and in case of emergency, they'd let him in. Well, you have to understand, everyone has families and children. Well, he decided, to hell with them all, and he'd go home, because he wasn't a first-year traveler. And to hear such nonsense for the first time. What do you mean, you'll get lost? This is the taiga. You can go to the bushes behind the yard and disappear, and that's happened. He left the village, drove along the dusty road, and saw that, indeed, there had been a fair. But now, not a single cart, not a single rider, no one. Although before, after the fair, even at night, there were plenty of people on the road, everyone going home, carrying their stuff. But great-grandfather wasn't the kind to change his mind, so he went on, and that was a mistake. He drove slowly, singing a song, lit a lamp for light and comfort, got out a flask, and drove slowly. Since he decided to go home, why turn? He drove into the forest. It was dark and quiet in the forest, though it was really time to turn back. But he went on, and about 20 minutes later, he met a wonder, an old woman sitting by the road, ancient as the world, small. "Help an old woman, give me a ride. I can't get home. My legs are giving out." "Old woman, what are you doing here? It's night." "I was going to the fair, but didn't make it. Been sitting here all day." Great-grandfather looked at her suspiciously. "Take me, kind man. I'll do you a good service. You won't get through the forest tonight. You'll get lost. But with me, you'll definitely stay alive. What's going to happen to me? There's no beast. The hunters have scared everything away 100 times. And if anything, I'm not empty-handed either. Neither strength nor skill will help you. you'll go a little further, and by morning they'll pull you and your horse and cart out. Stop. The night is special today." "All right, I'll help." Great-grandfather sat the old woman down, gave her something to drink and eat, and told her to watch the lamp so it would keep burning. And she was glad, because it was a free ride. They drove, and the forest seemed unreal. It became quiet, dark, and only the cart creaked. But instead of fear, sleep came over great-grandfather. And such a sleep. Wow. And the old woman, having eaten and drunk, seemed to come alive and started chattering to great-grandfather, shaking him. "What are you sleeping for, my dear?" "Mother, I feel like dozing." "Well, if you doze off, you'll sleep until morning, and then everyone around will scare each other with you." "What do you mean?" "I'll tell you. You won't believe it. But don't be afraid. I won't fall asleep for sure, and I won't let you. Now we'll pass a small section, then the sleep will pass." While great-grandfather listened, the old woman shook him a couple of times. He says his head seemed to drop, and he started falling asleep at once. But the old woman always woke him up. And how long they drove, it's unclear. But at some point, the forest really changed. The absolute darkness went away. The forest came alive, and the world returned to normal, and the sleep passed. There was no more terrible desire to lie down and sleep. Well, great-grandfather started asking the old woman what it was, why she didn't sleep, and what she meant when she said, "You won't believe it anyway." And she seemed to be waiting for this. "I'll tell you what it was, but first you answer me. Do you have an axe, a knife, or a gun?" "I have a gun." "Good. Now, let's go to your house. You'll see what I mean." "Well, when we get there, don't unhitch the horse right away. Go straight into the house, and when you see him, shoot. When the smoke clears. It's a scary night. The night of substitution. Whoever rides through such a place will fall asleep so soundly that he'll never wake up, and the forest demons will take the sleeper or drag him into such thickets that he'll never be found. But the real one will die, and in his place will stand one of the forest spirits in flesh and blood, and will live his life, remember his memories, and then destroy his whole family. Who knows what's on the minds of the dark forest spirits? If you had fallen asleep, he would have acquired an incarnation in flesh and blood. But you didn't sleep. He will resemble a living person, but will be like fog. The lie will dissipate if you hit hard enough." "All right, I understand you. And why didn't you sleep?" "Why? I'm old. Death is already standing behind me. I won't live long, and I've been sleeping very poorly for a long time. There's no remedy that would help me. Maybe I sleep 4 to 6 hours a day, and that's it. I suffer. So, I definitely wouldn't fall asleep." The old woman told a lot about life, about terrible and dangerous longing, and they slowly approached great-grandfather's house, where his family was waiting. He drove up, took the gun from the cart, checked it, and went into the house, leaving the horse with the old woman. He entered the house, and there he was sitting, an exact copy of himself, 1-to-1, like a mirror. He raised the gun, shot the double, and the double disappeared into the ground with black smoke, as if he had never been. And to the old woman he gave some food, a little money, and took her home, and thanked her more than once. After all, if not for her, he would have disappeared in the taiga. And after that, he said, if it suddenly becomes abnormally quiet and dark, and an unbearable sleep comes over you, run away wherever your eyes look, and then maybe you'll manage to save yourself. But you must not lie down to sleep. Yes, Greg, interesting story. I think I've heard something similar. Well, how could you not? I've told it not only to you. All right, give me a bowl, a spoon. I'll serve, or the barley will go wild. It's swollen like grapes already. He served Greg, served himself, and then looked at the third one. Will you eat? No plate or spoon? No problem, Greg. Go tear off some bark. We'll organize it for him. The third one stood up, looked at them, and slowly hobbled away, leaving the two hunters alone. John, who was that? Why did you say not to be silent? Why can't we sleep? What a mess. Why did we even go there? Apple Creek. That was the village. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. Turns out it's true. I didn't think we'd really find it. And is that a corpse? Or something worse? They're not people. They're called the Quiet Ones. His eyes are burning with hellfire, did you see? There are legends in the taiga that sometimes you can die badly, and after death you'll get up and walk around near the place of your death, and you'll become a quiet one. They say they can stand for hours without moving and look so slow. Only God forbid you shoot at him or run. He'll pounce at once, and believe me, you'll only escape from him by helicopter. They say the Quiet Ones can run as long and as fast as they want. Even wild animals are no threat to them. They just avoid them. What is it? It's unclear. And the old-timers say the best way with the Quiet Ones is not to run into them at all. And if you do, and he sees you, you mustn't show fear or that you're afraid of him. On the contrary, some wise shaman said, if he realizes that you see him as a monster, he'll pounce on you because he'll remember that he really is a monster. And if you treat him as an equal, talk to him as a person, the Quiet One will get bored and leave on his own. You mustn't chase him away, and you mustn't call him anything. Why? I don't know. But the most important thing is not to be silent. He'll never say anything, but if you fall silent, he'll attack you. You have to pretend that he's a person. You eat, give him some, you drink, pour him some. It doesn't matter where or how. The main thing is that he thinks you perceive him as your own, as a person. I don't know. Maybe he really thinks we're the same. He probably hasn't seen himself from the outside. Maybe he just becomes kinder because we treat him as an equal. No one will tell you anything. But with a Quiet One, when you're walking, strangely, there are pluses. Pluses. You saw, his fangs grew like a wolf's. I could barely take my eyes off them. I thought he'd tear me to pieces. But I was wrong. Maybe it would have happened sooner. But as it is, 3 hours with us. And there are pluses. While he's near, no one in the forest will touch you. Neither spirits nor animals. No one messes with the Quiet Ones. And he may come back. I don't know. I haven't heard of that in stories. Usually if he leaves, he leaves. But you mustn't go to sleep, or he might come at night, see that we're sleeping, and tear us apart. So someone has to keep talking, tell some stories. Maybe it's offensive to them. Why is it offensive? Well, maybe it's offensive that we're people, and maybe because we treated him as a third. Maybe he felt alive and left. I don't know. John took a sip from his flask and handed it to Greg. I'm not going to figure it out. The main thing is that when we met, I didn't shoot him out of fear or start yelling. Or else, if you yell or shoot, that's it. Only bones will be left of us.